January 30th, 2022. Antojitos Express, a small restaurant in Hempstead, New York. It's just before 11 p.m. when a man walks in holding a loaded gun. That man was 28-year-old Deshaun Martin. And what happened next was pure terror. He ordered everyone to the ground, then pistol-whipped a customer over and over. Another man, 49-year-old Santos Valeriano Argueta, tried to stop him. He pushed Martin out of the restaurant, risking his life to protect the others. But outside, Martin raised his gun and shot Santos 3 times at point-blank range. In the forearm, in the head, and then one final shot straight to the chest. As Santos lay dying on the pavement, Martin bent down and rifled through his pockets. He stole his phone and ran. But that wasn't the end. In the days that followed, Martin robbed 2 more stores at gunpoint, a 7-Eleven and a Dunkin' Donuts. And prosecutors say that he'd already done the same in 3 other robberies just months earlier. It was a spree, fueled by violence, and it ended in murder. Martin was finally arrested on February 9th, 2022. In June 2025, he was convicted of murder and 18 other charges. And in July, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole, plus an additional 152 years. Santos Argueta died trying to protect others. Now the man who killed him will never walk free again. If I could editorialize here for a moment, I don't think it was worth it. It was Independence Day in Rotherham, New York, but there would be no fireworks, no celebration, just 2 people lying dead in their home, and their son on the run. On July 4th, 2023, 41-year-old Anthony Lewis Jr. brutally stabbed his mother and stepfather, Kathy and Robert Guillaume, inside their Fern Avenue residence. Then he stayed. Prosecutors say Lewis remained in the house for nearly a full day before stealing Robert's black Buick Encore and fleeing south, through New Jersey and into Pennsylvania. The next time anyone saw him, it was after a crash on Interstate 80. His hands were covered in cuts, consistent with a violent knife attack, and just days later his parents' bodies were discovered during a welfare check. Inside the home, investigators found the murder weapons. Forensic analysis confirmed Lewis's DNA on them. Cell phone data, license plate tracking, even fitness app records all pointed to the timeline. And witnesses said Lewis later admitted what he'd done. In court, he took the stand and told jurors that God had instructed him to carry out the murders. They deliberated for just 30 minutes. Anthony Lewis Jr. was convicted of both murders and sentenced to life in prison without parole. He killed the 2 people who loved him the most, and now he'll die behind bars. If I could editorialize for a moment, I don't think he should have done that. April 2024, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 19-year-old Sade Robinson had just started turning a corner in her life. She was juggling 2 jobs, taking college classes, planning her future. Then she met someone new and agreed to a first date. Security cameras captured the moment she walked into a bar with him. The man, 34-year-old Maxwell Anderson. They sat together, they drank, they left together. She was never seen alive again. The next day, police made a horrifying discovery. A severed human leg found at Warnemont Park. Over the next several days, more remains were uncovered. A torso, 2 arms, a foot, but never her head. Investigators zeroed in on Anderson. Phone showed he was at Sade's home the night she disappeared. Inside his house, police found women's clothing hidden in the basement and stains that matched Sade's DNA. He had even torched her car, trying to cover his tracks. In June 2025, a jury convicted Anderson on all counts: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, arson, and hiding a corpse. And on July 26th, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. In court, Sade's mother called him a devil. Her father said he deserved death, and the judge, who had seen hundreds of murder cases, said this one was among the worst she had ever witnessed. Maxwell Anderson may appeal, but the damage is done, and a promising young life was erased. If I could editorialize here for a moment, I don't like what happened. July 18th, 2021, Brockton, Massachusetts. Eric Cohn was just out walking his service dog. He wasn't looking for a fight, but he ran into someone he knew, someone he had history with, Keith Disharoom. Witnesses say the 2 exchanged words, then Eric punched him. Disharoom got back in his truck and drove off, but he didn't stay gone. 10 minutes later, he returned, this time not alone. 2 more men joined him, including Mark Stroud, each carrying baseball bats, and Disharum had a knife. Eric stood with his dog, a woman, and a friend. What happened next was chaos. Stroud swung his bat, hitting the woman and the dog, and Disharum lunged forward, stabbing Eric Cohen twice in the chest. Then they left. Cohen collapsed on the sidewalk. He was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was too great. He died the next day. Cohen had been homeless, but to those who knew him, he was kind. He loved his dog. He gave what little he had. He would give you the shirt off his back, said a friend. He was a really good guy. The dog, Righteous, survived. But for Eric's family and friends, there would be no healing without justice. In July 2021, Disharum was arrested and charged with murder. And in July 2025, a jury found him guilty of first-degree murder. 2 days later, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The other man, Mark Stroud, is still awaiting trial, charged with murder, assault, and animal cruelty. But for now, Disharum's fate is sealed, and the man who once walked the streets with nothing is now remembered by everyone as someone who mattered. If I could editorialize for a moment, Mark Stroud should get death for hurting the dog. East Arcadia, North Carolina, August 18th, 2020. 2 men, once roommates in a halfway house, meet again. One of them will not leave alive. Jim Robert Goins and Kenneth Covell had history. They both spent time in prison. They both had something to prove. That morning, at a quiet home in East Arcadia, something snapped. The fight turned violent, and Goins made a choice he couldn't undo. He robbed Kenneth. Then he killed him, but that wasn't the end. Goins dragged the body to US Highway 11 and dumped it off the bridge into the Cape Fear River. 4 days later, a volunteer searcher spotted something strange by the water near Regalwood Golf Course, a partially dismembered body. It was Kenneth Covell. Police found blood on the bridge. They placed the story together quickly and tracked Goins down in Raleigh. He had a long rap sheet, convictions dating back to 1996, the latest burglary in 2015. He'd only been out for a year. In July 2025, a Bladen County jury took less than an hour to decide his fate. Guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of armed robbery, and just like that, Jim Robert Goins was sentenced to life without parole. Another 10 years tacked on for the robbery. But for Kenneth's family, there are no years left to count. Only the memory of a man who should still be. If I could editorialize for a moment, I don't think killing helped the situation.